there was a sale.
Apparently.
Yeah, so this particular pack was actually on sale. It was originally a Kickstarter bonus thing, and Catalyst is pretty much trying to get rid of their supply as the new Kickstarter rewards for the Mercenaries Kickstarter. That there's probably going to be a massive opening video for that in the future, but I'm not going to be the one opening it.
Oh my.
But that's problems for future us. So because this one was on sale and in limited supply, I decided to pick it up. This is the Legendary Mech Warriors Pack 1. Obvi- in the future, we'll be getting Legendary Mech Warriors 2 and 3, but we'll get there whenever the hell we get there. So, these are all mechs from notable people in the setting. And normally, when I do these unboxing videos, I tend to focus a little more on the robots. I'm probably not gonna do that as much this one,
Oh.
because it's Legendary Mech Warriors.
So you're saying they had special pilots or something?
Yeah, like important pilots in canon.
Okay.
So let's see here. Who do I want to start with?
Mm.
Let's start with this. So,
Okay.
this is a Marauder,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of those ubiquitous mechs. If we ever get this in another pack, I'll talk about it more in depth.
Uh-huh.
Specifically, it's the Marauder of Grayson Carlisle. I would be saying his middle name, but I'm genuinely not sure how you're supposed to pronounce it because I've heard multiple things on that. I sure as hell know how it's spelled, but Grayson Carlisle was the son of a Steiner Lance commander, and he was groomed to take over his father's lance, Carlisle's commandos. Unfortunately, his father died in a bandit raid, and like his their mechs got destroyed, and on the planet Trell One, and so Grayson Carlisle, at a very young age, ended up organizing a resistance force against these bandits and some Cretan invaders, and he ended up like basically inventing ways for poor bloody infantry to take on mechs. Keep in mind, these things are like 10 to 12 meters tall and were considered the kings of the battlefield. Guy on foot is guy on foot. Grayson Carlisle, at the end of that whole thing, he ended up with a Shadowhawk battle mech, and a lot of the people who were with him just formed a mercenary unit around him. The Grey Death Legion. They went on to Verthandi, where Grayson Carlisle managed to snag this from some Curetans, and then they ended up getting a contract with House Merrick on Helm, where they found the Helm Memory Core along with a bunch of Star League era mechs, and they basically kicked off like a massive wave of Lost Tech rediscovery. Eventually, Grayson's Marauder got the crap kicked out of it, and he ended up having to replace it, but the unit kept it, and about 100 years later, when his great grandson Ronan Carlisle was reforming the mercenary unit, the Grey Death Legion, after a whole bunch of shenanigans, um, Ronan's father sent him a rebuilt version of this mech using a lot more kick-ass technology. I believe it was rebuilt into an 11D, which has Clanny or PPC's two Medium X pulse lasers and a silver bullet Gauss rifle, among other things. Whereas Grayson piloted the bog standard 3R1. But yeah, it's a pretty iconic mech, and Grayson Carlisle was one of the early characters in fiction, and a lot of the early books follow the Grey Death Legion, so they're very popular among the fans. The next one So this one may look familiar to some of you who've watched a previous video. This is an archer, and as you may recall, Surratt got the Wolf's Dragoons version in the Wolf's Dragoon pack. This is not that version. This is the bog standard version of the archer, the 2R, I want to say. I'd have to look it up. But the notable pilot of this one is Morgan Kell. Morgan Kell and his brother Patrick were two brothers who were the sons of a nobleman from the planet Ark Royal, which was a decent planet with, like, a mech repair part manufacturer and a lot of farmland, kind of in the northern part of House Steiner. It's core word, you jackass. Yeah, I know. They were also cousins to the Duke of Donegal, Arthur Leuven. They kind of lived a wild childhood, but they were generally good boys. Their cousin Arthur Leuven loved them. And at some point, they discovered that Arthur Leuven's girlfriend, General Katrina Steiner, was under target of assassination from her uncle, the Archon Alessandro Steiner. So they all went off to have crazy adventures together that involved them masquerading as pirates for several years, going into the periphery, falling in love, falling out of love, finding advanced technology, and then eventually coming back to the inner sphere and helping Katrina Steiner take the House Steiner throne, because Alessandro Steiner was kind of a dick. Arthur Leuven ends up marrying Katrina Steiner, so suddenly the Kell boys are in good with the ruling family of Steiner. Yay! But, Arthur Leuven ended up, when he died, leaving Morgan and Patrick Kell a bunch of money, so they set out to make a mercenary unit. The Kellhounds, who ended up becoming one of the most storied mercenary units in all of Battletech. They were there on Mallory's world when Yorinaga Kurita killed Ian Davian and prevented House Kurita from stealing the body. Morgan Kell actually... So this is going to be a little bit of fan wank, because the writers have deliberately left this vague. Morgan Kell either found incredible ECM technology, like stealth technology that we don't know the particulars of, or he developed supernatural powers. Because he basically gained the ability to, like, march into battle, and his mech would disappear from sensors, and just nothing would be able to hit it. Morgan Kell was considered one of the greatest mech warriors who've ever lived, up there with Natasha Kerensky and Kai Allard Liao. The Kellhounds were considered one of the greatest mercenary units of all time. And for a while, the Kellhounds ended up being considered one of those sub-factions in Battletech that, like, only cheese lovers like them. You're basic if you love them, because they ended up getting a chunk of Clan Wolf allied with them, because Morgan Kell's son Felon was the Khan of the Wolves. That was a whole thing that happened. But yes, Morgan Kell, notable archer pilot, becomes a major political mover and shaker once he becomes Duke of Ark Royal. Big part of the FedCom Civil War as well, but definitely hugely notable pilot.
Whoop.
Stay.
They're trying to run away.
This is another mech that may look familiar from the Wolf's Dragoons pack I got Surratt.
Uh-huh.
It is a Timberwolf.
Okay.
But it's supposed to be a specific version of the Timberwolf.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden Pride, well, Aiden, let's start there. Aiden was an aspiring warrior for the Jade Falcons before the clan invasion. He was a good warrior. He was known for taking risks. He gets to his trial of position. He starts a melee in that. What's that mean? Don't worry about it. And he gets shot out of his mech by his BFF Marth and fails.
God damn it, Marth.
And gets relegated to the technician cast. He can't deal with that. He goes AWOL. But he gets recaptured by the people who were training him, who basically super illegally give him a second shot at becoming a warrior, masquerading as a freeborn. What's a freeborn? Don't worry about it. We're not going into the ins and outs of clan society. He makes it as a clan warrior, but because he's masquerading as a freeborn, basically gets crappy assignments from then on out, and there's no chance of him contributing to the clan gene pool. What do you mean by that? Don't worry about it.
You keep saying that.
Listen, if we're gonna get into a video of me talking about the ins and outs of clan society, we will be here all night. And frankly, we have other shit to do.
That's fair.
Eventually, there was a big battle at a planet called, I believe it was Grant Station, but I'd have to double check that, where the only reasons the Jade Falcons won was because Aiden pulled off some crazy risky shit and defeated the wolves who were attacking. So he gets some measure of glory for himself, and at that point, he reveals his true identity. He's like, yes, I am actually Aiden. I am a true-born warrior, and I will compete for a pride blood name. What's a blood name? Don't stop asking questions, hypothetical viewer. He ended up having to jump through a bunch of hoops for that, but he successfully won his blood name through, again, crazy risky maneuvers. But because he was considered tainted because of the underhanded things he had to do to become a warrior, he essentially got a bunch of, shitty assignments in garrison posts where there wasn't a lot of chance to win glory. I haven't even gotten to his mech yet. Eventually, during the clan invasion, even though he's just a garrison person, he gets into some battles, and he wrecks his mech, which was a summoner. And apparently he was unable to get a replacement summoner for himself. This is hilarious because the summoner is literally the most common mech the Jade Falcons have. So this means he must have wrecked, all of them.
But you see, there was a conflict at the factory.
I mean, at that point, their supply lines were kind of long because they were shipping them from the homeworlds. But anyway, because there wasn't a replacement summoner available for him, he ended up getting this very glitchy Timberwolf that was known to have a bunch of tech issues, which years later in real-world time, it's discovered that, it was a weird computer virus it had. But he gets this glitchy Timberwolf, because it's not which is, by every actual metric, a much better mech than the Summoner. But because it wasn't what he was used to, he actually reconfigured it. So that gives us the Timberwolf Pride configuration. It's a lot like the Prime. It has 2 LRM-20s, 2 ER large lasers, 2 ER medium lasers. It replaces the medium pulse laser, the machine guns, and the machine gun ammo with jump jets, because he's used to jumping around in his Summoner, damn it. And he had some space left over, so he slapped a small laser on there, because fuck it, why not? He actually no one's more surprised about this than him. He is assigned for the Battle of Tukayid, which is one of the big... Like, it was an assignment he wasn't expecting to get. It was, like, the big battle between the clans and Comstar, fate of the universe. And, the Jade Falcons were one of the clans to do better in that, which admittedly, low bar. The only ones to get a straight-up win were basically the Wolves. Anyway, a big reason the Falcons did as well as they did were Aiden Pride's crazy tactics. The Falcons end up having to retreat just because everything goes wrong, because Comstar ended up outwitting the clans, because the clans are used to fighting a very specific way. The clans are used to, like, very short, straight-up battles, and they're like, oh, this Battle of Tukey, it'll last a day. Comstar dragged it out for a month.
Wow.
But, so the Jade Falcons are forced to retreat, and, Aiden is preparing to head to his dropship, and someone tells him, "Sir, one of your warriors hasn't made it back." Well, tell them to get back here faster. They can't. Their mech is disabled. Well, that sucks. Sir, is this a bad time to mention it's your daughter? I have one of those? Wait a minute.
I want a paternity test.
So, he ends up rushing back out into the battlefield of Tukayid. He's basically the last Falcon on the field, and he's basically holding the line single-handedly. All of his weapons are disabled, his sensors are glitching out, he just has a small laser left, and, with like, some targeting information from someone in a plane above, with just the small laser of death, he takes out, like, 5 or 6 Comstar warriors, and because of that, he kind of enters into Jade Falcon legend as, oh my god, this man was insane, but you could not keep him down. He earned the nickname the Jade Phoenix as a result of that, and much later the Falcons name a really kick-ass mech after him. But yeah, he ends up becoming, like, one of the great Falcon heroes, just on virtue of, you cannot keep this man down, and he is a mad bastard. So that brings us to our last mech, and of the ones in here, I think it's the one that has the actual unique sculpt. This is the Direwolf. Specifically, it is the Direwolf Widowmaker. Natasha Kerensky was one of the biggest badasses the Wolves had ever produced. She was good at one thing: killing other things on the battlefield. She was really good at it. She was absurdly good at it. Holy shit, like, could you slow down, Natasha? She was basically so good at it. When the clans were doing their ritualized combat, where it's like, I am attacking you with these forces. An actual tactic to get the enemy to reduce the amount of forces that they were going to use was just going, we're attacking with this unit. Except Natasha, she's staying home. Oh, thank God, we can defend with a lot less. Okay, ritual go forward. Which meant that Natasha was not being allowed to do what she was good at, and she was kind of frustrated by that. So in the early 3000s, when the clans decided, maybe we should think about this invading the Inner Sphere thing, but let's send a recon force into the Inner Sphere. They apparently hire mercenaries there, right? We'll masquerade as mercenaries. Natasha was basically like, shit, I'm going. Are you sure you're, like, the most bet? Do you want to try to stop me? She became part of the Wolf's Dragoons, and she kind of became the stuff of legend in the Inner Sphere. Basically, as one of the mech warriors you didn't want to piss off. Because again, let me re-emphasize this, the thing she was really, really good at was murdering the shit out of things on the battlefield. She had a lot of crazy adventures in the Inner Sphere, including murdering the fuck out of Anton Merrick because he killed her boyfriend and a bunch of the other wolves. The Black Widow Company was one of the early things in, like, Battletech lore that was like, yeah, these are the baddest of the bad, don't fuck with Natasha Kerensky. When the clans were invading, Natasha, being the only blood-named warrior left in the Wolf's Dragoons, ends up going back to the clans. She is like 70 at this point. The normal clan warrior is considered over the hill at like 30. So she came back, it causes a massive uproar. They're like, you're too old to fight. So she proceeds to take a trial of position, ends up doing better than any warrior had ever done in a trial of position, comes back as a star colonel, gets elected Khan of the Wolves, where her job pretty much was to murder anybody that was causing trouble for the other two Khans of the Wolves, Ulrich Kerensky and Felon Kell. Because again, let me re-emphasize, the thing she was really, really good at was murdering the ever-loving fuck out of people on the battlefield. And to do that, she had a custom configuration of the Dire Wolf, one of the most frightening mechs the clans produced. This particular version was armed with 2 ERPPCs, 2 large pulse lasers, an Ultra AC-20, 2 medium pulse lasers, and a small pulse laser. It's basically a much bigger and much angrier Marauder. She went on to kill... She was a big reason the Wolves did well at the Battle of Tukiad. She wasn't the only reason, but she also really, really hated Comstar, which meant that when she was on the battlefield, she's like, I'm gonna kill a lot of people in Comstar, and I'm gonna love every minute of it. When Clan Wolf was in danger of splitting for a while, she basically was there to bust heads to keep them together. And during the Refusal War against the Jade Falcons, she ended up murdering the fuck out of a lot of Jade Falcons. The thing that wound up taking her down was one of the people who trained Aiden Pride here got in a one-on-one fight with her and was going to lose and got very, very lucky and just, in a mech with no weapons left, basically was like, fuck it, I'm gonna fire my jump jets and see what happens, and ended up frying Natasha Kerensky's cockpit with them. The mech remains on the planet Toycross as a memento of the unstoppable hatred and anger that Natasha Kerensky had. Several members of Clan Wolf who piloted the Dire Wolf would configure it in the same configuration. One of her genetic descendants goes on to also be really, really ridiculously good at murdering the fuck out of Jade Falcons like 100 years later. So what you should take away from this is, don't anger Natasha Kerensky. Don't. But yeah, those are some of the notorious and legendary mech warriors of this setting. They're all badasses. You probably understood maybe a third of what I've been talking about, especially during the Aiden Pride section. But I hope this has been informative. I hope you've enjoyed this, and keep on piloting them robots.
Pew pew.
Pew pew.